Welcome, chamber music fans. Michelle Schumann here with the Austin Chamber Music Festival. I'm noticing in this video that my head looks very big compared to your heads, but that's okay. We're good that way. I'm here with Greg and Rachel from the Aeolus String Quartet, and I'm very, very happy that you're here in person because you're just here on a sort of stopover. You drove, correct me if I'm wrong, you drove from Washington, D.C. to be here in Austin because you're going to be here in a couple weeks for the festival, and now you're catching a flight to go to Stanford.
Exactly.
Nice. That's some logistical ingenuity.
Yeah,
that's right.
We don't like to stay in one place for too long.
Yeah, I guess not. So did you just drive in today?
Yes, I did, anyway. So Rachel and Alan drove separately. They made their own little journey, and my wife Anna and I stayed with some friends in College Station overnight.
I'm sorry.
No, go UT. Don't. It was a very temporary stopover, and we're okay.
Barely happens.
We made it out unscathed. Yeah, often it goes this way. Travels. But we wind up in the same place, and be there to play the concerts.
Yeah. And what are you doing in Stanford? Tell us.
We'll be there for a seminar with the St. Lawrence String Quartet.
Great.
So that will
Canadian String Quartet.
Yeah, exactly. That's where all the good ones come from, right? So we'll do that, and then for the last week there, we actually are faculty for a gifted high schooler program that Stanford runs, and these kids are brilliant. It's amazing.
Super.
Yeah, they're really inspiring, and we do a whole bunch of different activities with them.
Is it a quartet program? Or is it just
no, it's like kind of like a music appreciation course. So I think last time we did this, they had the kids write like 1-minute string quartets, and a lot of them had never written music before. But it was, and then we played through them, and a marathon is like hours long.
Yeah,
it was cool. It was really cool.
How fun! Yeah. And do you do some lectures for them as well, or is it? Wow, so you have to do all sorts of things.
Yeah, there's all kinds of activities in there. It's just amazing because I think for a lot of these kids, let alone chamber music, were probably the first exposure they've had to a string quartet. I think, like in such direct capacity, and a lot of them, maybe they've seen a picture or a video, but it's not super often that people make the time to come out and go see a concert. They should do it more. Maybe they will after this video goes online.
Yes,
but it's so interesting that way. A lot of them are just like, their minds are blown by the intimacy of sort of like that particular kind of ensemble and the music written for it. Yeah.
And how different is it so you'll work with these kids who haven't had a lot of exposure to chamber music or string quartet, and then you'll come back to Austin and you'll be the artist in residence for our workshop, as well as playing concerts during the festival. With kids who have had exposure, they've probably played chamber music before, or at least they have some sort of appreciation for it because they've decided to intensely do it for a couple of weeks. So how is that kind of different relating to those kids as opposed to the other?
I think it's a different kind of energy, really. Like the kids at ACMC really come in raring to go. Like they've got their parts, they're excited to play. Some of them know each other, and some of them are with kids that they've never met before. And it's exciting because we're going to be able to work with them for a long period of time. I mean, it's weeks. Really, with this other program, it's like, it's not a one-off, but it's closer. We have to really fit things into a smaller period of time, and we can really grow and develop a relationship with these kids and see them from the beginning, where they're just trying to figure out how this all works, to the end concert when we're the proud faculty sitting back wiping the tears.
It is emotional when you see these kids.
It's amazing.
You come from because they might not go from 0 to 60, they might go from 10 to 60, but even at 10, it's like, oh, is this going to come together? And then it's really, really amazing when it does.
Yeah.
Well, we're thrilled to have you guys there, and
we're
to
so
be
excited.
To be doing the capacity of teaching and playing, I think really sort of enriching for the program and for you guys and for everything. So it'll be a lot of fun. I wanted to talk to you guys. I know that next year you guys are going to be the quartet in residence at Juilliard. Huge congratulations. You must have been thrilled to get that.
That's right.
I feel like that is such a stepping stone for like all the great quartets in a way, and you must feel that way too. And I wanted to just talk to you about how do you and how have you made your plans over the years? Because it seems like it's almost as if you've had a strategic plan, because you've had these great stepping stones that have gotten you to these great places. And I'm wondering if you guys talk about planning in that way, or if it happens on its own.
Right. I think it's so interesting because in the same way any particular musician's journey, for them, it happens very gradually. You say, today I'm just going to go practice. The next day you just go practice again. The next day you just go practice again. And every now and then these big things come along that prove not so much the quality or luckiness of your playing in that given day, but the quality of all the work before it.
Right.
And you know how this is,
of course,
being a musician.
Yeah.
It's so you put in so much work, and sometimes things go very well. I think in terms of the planning, we definitely do have sort of, the golden plan, which sort of contains, not direct paths to any particular institution or city, but sort of ideas, determining, for instance, that we would love to have, I think in the end, the whole quartet a teaching residency at a university. So we sort of think, well, what would be really good, to have? Like, what if a university is looking at hiring a quartet? Suppose, they look at us and they would say, well, they're all going to have doctorates, which hopefully we plan on finishing individually next year. And then they'll say, they did the Juilliard program, they've won competitions, they've done teaching. We just, we're just filling out a checklist, and then if the opportunity becomes available, I think that's sort of hopefully just being prepared is sort of the plan.
And probably even more so when you're in a group, it's important to kind of have these ideas and plans together. I've always felt like as an individual, you don't want to get too caught up in the trajectory. It's like what you said, you just practice every day. You show up, you do your best, you meet the people.
Exactly.
and things tend to fall into place. And even if you're in conflict with yourself of where your career might go, it doesn't really matter. You can be in conflict with yourself. But in a quartet, you can't really be in conflict. Like if one person has this dream, another person has a completely different dream. That's ridiculously hard to deal with.
I think in that instance we apply to everything and then see what works out. And
right.
Right.
I think we learned a concept, an idea. It's just 2 words, but we learned it from the Miro Quartet, and it's called malleable conviction.
I love that.
And
it's one of my favorite things.
It's so incredible, and it in terms of people negotiating with each other when there are seeming ties, 2 against 2 in the quartet. If everyone, in those moments, if everyone's malleable, if when no one knows what to do, everyone becomes convicted. It's the perfect sort of catchphrase in terms of interconnectivity in the way we communicate with each other, the way we plan, the way we rehearse. If we just keep that in mind, I think it's a really helpful technique for communication.
And luckily, or maybe not luckily, none of you guys are married to each other.
You're right.
I kind of feel like there are plenty of quartets where there are couples within quartets, and I almost feel like it sometimes can be unfair to the other people because it's almost like that's always going to be one vote, or 2 people are going to be one vote, and
Creates
it's harder
to
yeah. So in a way, you guys don't have to be beholden to each other, and you can have your own kind of. Not that married people can't do that too, and I'm sure the best quartets who have those relationships, they figure out how to be an individual and how to be true to the group when it's important to be true to the group too.
Right, exactly.
So,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe one day you guys will be married to each other. I don't know.
They
say a quartet
well,
they say quartets, it's like being married, right? Because you're traveling together. And I've known that quartets have gone to marriage counseling before. Did you ever hear that about the Orford string quartet?
Right.
At one point, they went to a marriage counselor.
Wow. I'd heard sports therapy before, to kind of talk through
like
competitive.
team.
And team. I didn't know about marriage counseling.
Yeah,
hey.
That makes sense. It's probably all about a breakdown in communication.
Probably.
All the same problems.
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, when you will be here in Austin, you're playing a bunch of programs. You're playing the finale program with us, and then you're doing several outreach programs. I think 3 or 4 outreach programs. And I really wanted to talk about some of the repertoire that you've chosen. In particular, a piece by Christopher Theophanidis that you're playing at Central Presbyterian Church. I think the second week that we're at Central Presbyterian Church. Because I know that you guys do a lot of new music. We did a sort of world premiere together,
which was awesome.
It was really
so
fun.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about this piece and how you go about programming new music and how you make it accessible to audiences and get them as excited about a new piece of music, or at least one written in 1995, as they get excited about a Beethoven string quartet.
Right. I think, in particular, the Chris Theophanidis piece is really important to me. I did my undergrad at Peabody from 2003 to 2007, and I think in my 3rd year, 2006, I don't remember which semester, it doesn't matter, the orchestra there played a piece by Theophanides called Rainbow Body. And I'd never heard of this guy. I thought it sounded really fruity. But after a few rehearsals, I just grew really enamored with like the sound of the piece, the sort of like this like sort of sensuality involved in it, and just the light in the sound, which is so hard to describe. But you hear the piece and it makes sense. I thought the piece was amazing. It sort of stuck with me ever since. The quartet just a few years ago was looking at just sort of scanning living composers, looking for music to play. Which is a happy place to be, take that. And we read Theophanides' name, and I right away I had forgotten about him for a few years, if that's possible. And we have to look and see if he has a string quartet. We have to. So we go to his website. We listen to a sound sample of I think the Henschel Quartet playing the slow movement. Actually, it's just like 30 seconds, and I was freaking out. Like the music is so sparse and like sort of lifted, just like aired, and as I was listening to this music, I was thinking to myself, like, I just love this sound, and like that's the connection that you want to have with a modern composer. I think that through the music first, and to the person also. In addition, I met him at Peabody, and it was just the music itself was the inspiration. It didn't have to do with some an intellectual concept. It didn't have to do with knowing the math behind the music. For me, it was just loving the sound of his music, and I think, as we've all played it together, it's grown to be a piece that we all love. I'll say nearly equally. I still like it the most. But
we're all pumped about playing for sure. And I think in terms of bringing a piece that the audience almost for sure has never heard before, because it's just not frequently played.
Right.
I think, like Greg was talking about, it's like our enthusiasm for it and our investment in the piece, I think, is what like makes or breaks that kind of performance, because that's what really transfers to the audience. And so this has been a piece that's really fun for us to play, because like we can't help but get really into it, because just the sound world is it's fun. So we're excited to bring that to ACMC.
And I think generally new music for chamber music or for solo is generally taken better by audiences, and I think it has everything to do with preparation. A lot of times with orchestral premieres, a lot of times there's just not enough time to rehearse it so that everyone can be as invested in it. And without having that investment, and without every player having that knowledge of a piece of music, it's just hard for it to be completely convincing. So it's nice with a string quartet. You're not going to go on stage without getting to that point of the piece of music.
Right.
And I think that is a huge thing. And I think people should understand that a lot of times, if they don't enjoy a newer work, it might just because it wasn't performed well. I hate to be a jerk, but I mean...
No, I mean, that's the job of the performer. I mean, you're supposed to be the mode of communication, so it's a big responsibility, and I think if it's something that you feel like you can do well, it's really a special experience.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to hear that piece. And I also noticed that you programmed two Fantasias by Purcell.
Right.
So how did that come about?
Where did we discover those? Oh, I guess we had the good fortune to meet the curator of the Rare Instrument Collection at the Smithsonian, living in D.C., and we've since performed a bunch with him, and we got to play in the Strad collection up there, which has been a dream. It makes it going back to our instruments kind of hard.
You could have just done a swap.
We've talked about it so many times.
No one would notice.
Right. I mean, right?
Anyway, but he knows everything there is to know about everything, but particularly early music. And he had introduced us to these Fantasias, and he suggested we look into these two specifically because, I mean, they're written for a viol consort, so of course completely different instruments than we're playing, but it actually translates well to string quartet. And it's just like, it's a whole different sound world. I mean, it barely sounds like a string quartet if we're doing it right.
We feel like, to balance out the new music, we give people something really old that they still haven't heard, and, we feel like string quartets, it's easy to sort of, hone in on the great repertoire, the Beethoven, the
which you're doing plenty of.
Right, exactly.
Let's be clear here.
Right, but the really old stuff and the really new stuff, pushing the boundaries in either direction can be really interesting.
Yeah, it just enriches everyone's experience too, and you can experience Beethoven in a different way if you know about Purcell. And likewise, we get an idea that I love new music too, because if we can translate the idea that at one time Beethoven was new music too, and also that people were like freaked out by it at one time too, and to understand that over a period of time it's been accepted and people understand it much better, that that people can understand with new music too, that if we can just get there sooner, that would be a good thing.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
The more you love, the better life is, right?
Of course, yeah.
Oh, isn't
Aww.
that nice?
That's nice.
Very nice. So you guys will be back here in a couple of weeks,
Right.
Yeah.
and you've promised me, you promised me that we would do a video together. We're going to do a cute little video together
yeah.
for the beginning.
Oh, right.
No, we're already
So
preparing.
everyone, stay on the lookout for that, because it's going to be a fun little promo video for the festival as it comes out. And I have partners in crime now, so that'll be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I know the kids are really looking forward to working with you again. You guys enjoy working with the kids as well?
Absolutely. I had a
Can't wait.
fantastic time last time we were here, and I've been looking forward to the return ever since.
Yes, good. Well, we'll have to do it again and again.
Sounds
Fine
good to
with
me.
us.
Well, thank you for stopping off in Austin on your way to
course.
California and doing this interview. This is really great. It's so much nicer to kind of do it in person rather than virtually. I mean, I guess it's virtually no matter what, but this way it's not through Skype. So
Right.
this is, at least we get to see each other.
It's nice for us.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
you guys too.
So thanks again, and chamber music fans, we will see you in a few weeks. Bye.
Bye.